Today, we're going to be building a LEGO Star Wars Separatist Droid Gunship. Let's get started. This gunship is going to be scaled with the Coruscant Guard Gunship, which I personally think is a great minifigure scale gunship. The first thing you see me build is the cross, which I will use as the scale for the main body of the gunship. My first attempt at creating the body was to make multiple panels using wedge plates, then connect those panels together using hinge plates. Sounds great in theory, but unfortunately when I put it to practice, none of the angles quite matched up. When that didn't work, it was on to plan B. This plan involved stacking wedge plates in an incline in order to create that same disc shape. This involved me having to pull out every single wedge plate in either light bluish gray or dark blue in order to create this part of the build. This building technique went way better, and since it's stacked plates, it's a much sturdier build. Once the back half was done, it was time to start moving towards the front. The first things I started to build were the connection points where the wings that'll hold the blasters will eventually go. Then it was on to the head. I decided to do the head build before doing the rest of the disc because the final result of the head would heavily impact how I designed the front. The head build was a long process of trial and error with a lot of fragile building techniques. But when you build something this detailed at this scale, compromises will have to be made. Once the head was complete, it was time to attach it to the main body. The first step of me connecting it I am quite proud of. It involved getting the head to bend at the right angle, while still being sturdy. This meant I had to have two connection points, both of which were at an angle, and I nailed it on the second try. Once that was complete, it was time to build the second part of the disc. The second part of the disc went a lot slower than the first part, mostly because I was running out of wedge plates. You can see me scrolling through my phone, looking at parts lists of different models that I have, trying to see if any of them had the wedge plates I need. Thankfully, I was able to have just enough to finish the build. After I attached the second half of the disc, it was time for a little bit more trial and error when it came to the head. I found out that I had put the head up a little too high, so I had to disassemble and then reassemble the build a couple times to try to get the height and how far out it was from the body just right. With that completed, it was time to fill in the chasm in the middle of the build. At first, I just tried to use navy blue tiles to fill it in, but it didn't quite have that round shape. So I took a dive into my black tiles and found some black curved pieces from a build that I made a long time ago. I was able to use these in combination with my dark blue pieces in order to get it to look perfect. Once the inside was complete, it was time to flesh out the edges by adding a little bit of dark blue and light bluish gray pieces to finish off the effect. The final touches for the top side of the build were the two wings to hold two blasters. Then it was time to flip it over. The underside of this was the main reason why I was excited to build it. LEGO has done this set multiple times, but they've always focused on the gunship part and never the dropship part. I was now challenging myself to make it to where I could hold both B1 and B2 Battle Droids. You can see me here put down the rails, and then try my first attempt at attaching the droids. Attaching the B1s is easy because they have a stud on the back. The B2s was a little bit harder, and my first attempt didn't work at all since they don't have a lot of connection points. My second attempt went much better, with the B1s once again working perfectly, and the B2s having a little bit of a cheat. They're technically not attached to the backboard, they're holding on to a clip which allows them to look as if they're strapped in. Once it's all said and done, it could fit either 12 B1 or B2 Battle Droids, just like it could in Star Wars. Once the rails were attached, it was time to build the proton torpedoes. The proton torpedoes were really the icing on the cake when it came to this build. Following that, I added a little bit more greebling and some lights to the bottom, and then it was just a matter of adding a stand and enjoying the final product. And here is the final design. This was only my second ever Star Wars MOC, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. If you like this MOC, feel free to stick around for future builds. Until next time, farewell and keep creating.